Hi, my name is Sarah Meeks, and my paper and presentation are on bilingualism in deaf individuals. My thesis statement for this paper is bilingualism is optimal for deaf individuals as it provides opportunities for the pursuit of their deaf identity while giving them access to education, careers, and community. So in my paper and this presentation, I'll be focusing on education, career, and community as the main topics for reasons why bilingualism is important for deaf individuals. Firstly, what does bilingualism look like in deaf individuals? It's a unique form called bimodal bilingualism. Bimodal bilingualism is when an individual knows and uses one oral or spoken language and one sign language. Although one language is classified as an oral language, it doesn't have to be spoken to be used. Most deaf individuals use oral language primarily for reading and writing purposes. In contrast to bilingual education, what other kinds of deaf education are there? The most popular one is called oralism. Oralism is a method of teaching spoken communication to deaf individuals by modes of mouth and voice training. They also focus on lip reading as the main form of receptive communication. While this method was popular in the 1800s and most of the 1900s, it has its problems. Firstly, it was paired with rules that banned the use of all sign language and discouraged writing as a form of communication. Secondly, it was built on false assumptions that deaf individuals who used sign language instead of spoken language were not intelligent and could not succeed. This changed in the late 1900s when research showed otherwise, and since then, many deaf schools have adopted bilingual programs. Firstly, bilingualism is optimal for deaf individuals because it helps them in an educational setting. Deaf students too often come into school with no language, as their parents do not have a hearing loss and do not teach their child sign language. For this reason, it is important that language starts at a young age. For children who do not or cannot use hearing devices, a sign language is their opening to communication and learning. It was shown in a study done with young deaf children that those who had a strong base in American Sign Language that they received at home had better scores on English syntax tests than those who did not. There's another study that shows that this information presentation in both American Sign Language and English is not only beneficial for deaf children, but also for hearing children. A study found that hearing kindergartners who had information presented to them in both English and American Sign Language had higher vocabulary than those who had not. All of this is important because reading and writing is the foundation of our society. Second, bilingualism is optimal for deaf individuals because it helps them in the career setting. Career is important for any person, but for deaf individuals, finding a job can be difficult. In many instances, a hearing individual may be chosen for a job over a deaf one out of convenience. Statistics show that more than 50% of deaf individuals may be unemployed. So what are the assumptions that lead people to think that deaf individuals can't hold jobs? Firstly, there are studies that have found that deaf individuals leave school with a significantly lower reading level than their hearing counterparts. This is actively being addressed by schools that have deaf students. Studies find that a way to improve these students' reading is by using a bilingual method where a strong base in sign language is used to explain reading passages and to teach reading skills in that oral language. This reading may be one of the most important skills for career success. The other important skill to have is communication. Having an understanding and an applicable use of English can be important for written conversations and can be supplemented with interpreted in-person conversation. Lastly, bilingualism is optimal for deaf individuals because it helps them in the community setting. Culture is very important for deaf individuals. With rich art forms such as poetry and storytelling, the deaf culture is unique to anything I've ever seen. To be involved in the deaf culture, you must be proficient in sign language. As a culture and minority identities become increasingly important in our society, the opportunity to find identity with one's deafness can be emotionally crucial for some deaf individuals. This is why it's important to include sign language in a deaf individual's education, though it may seem simpler just to teach them English. Overall, I covered some aspects of deaf culture and history while showing how it connects to my argument. I discussed how being bilingual as a deaf individual optimizes the learning environment, the pursuit of career, and the unique opportunity to embrace culture.